Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be speculating on 10 metal albums I want to see released in 2023. Just a quick note here, none of these albums have been confirmed. It's all speculation, like I said. I'm hoping to do a video next week counting down some of the most anticipated albums of the year, and those will be of the confirmed releases we have so far for 2023. But today, like I said, just speculation. Will 2023 finally be the year that The Institute by King Diamond sees the light of day? Hopefully so. King Diamond was asked about the progress of the new record and said this, and I quote, "We're working on it. Brian Slagle said he wants the King Diamond album to be released first. We're not going to change things because everything has been postponed, and now it's Mercy playing live. Andy LaRocque sent me 8 songs of his for the King Diamond album, but that's maybe enough for his share for 2 albums. The story will be over 2 albums. I don't even think Masquerade of Madness will now be on the album. It'll be all new songs," end quote. So that's really exciting. So, you know, King Diamond has been keeping busy, not just with the solo thing, but also with Mercyful Fate. They, of course, have been doing their North American tour, which is really, really cool. If you got out to see them live, that's awesome. But King Diamond and Mercyful Fate simultaneously working on studio albums, and I'll talk about the new Mercy album in a little bit. But right now, for the King Diamond record, The Institute, it's an album that's been pushed back for a long time, so the possibility of it being released in 2023 is really intriguing. And, you know, now to hear from King Diamond himself that Masquerade of Madness, which was presumably the lead single for that album, might not even be included here on the record, you know, can only speak to how strong he thinks the album is, because I think that's a great song, you know. So now we're hearing there might be 2 King Diamond albums in the works, as well as the Mercyful Fate record, so it's all very exciting, and hopefully we hear more about that in 2023. I can only hope. Like I had said, King Diamond has been keeping very busy, not just with his solo career, but also with Mercyful Fate, and when asked about the progress of the new upcoming Mercyful Fate album, still, you know, to be announced, he had this to say, and I quote, "When it comes, I don't know, but definitely a new album. It's another song we're working on. I won't say the title right now, but it's really cool. It's not 9 minutes long like The Jackal of Salzburg. We could play it, but we are not doing that. It's very theatrical, and I have lots of lyrics and lyric pieces done for quite a few other songs. Hank has sent me some stuff, and it's just like the old days," he says. "You use whatever you want, put your touch on it, and then it's Mercyful Fate." Of course, his touch is important too. Together, it's Mercyful Fate, end quote. That's what King Diamond had to say, so seems like things are coming along really well for the new Mercyful Fate record, and hopefully we get to hear it in 2023 as well. I mean, this could be a massive year for King Diamond and Mercyful Fate, right? You could have 2 King Diamond records released, the new Mercy album. On top of that, we have Mercyful Fate touring North America. It's all very exciting and could be a loaded year for the King Diamond Mercyful Fate camp if all this stuff comes to fruition, but right now it's all speculation. However, you know, the new King Diamond and Mercyful Fate records do seem to be coming along really nicely. Iron Maiden frontman Bruce Dickinson is going to have a busy 2023 as it is, seeing that Maiden are going to be kicking off the Future Past tour sooner than later, but there's been a lot of speculation and rumblings for a long time that Bruce has been working on another solo record. That would be the follow-up to 2005's Tyranny of Souls, so it's been quite a long time since Bruce has released a solo project, but it was confirmed by his longtime collaborator Roy Z that there is something in the works and that it's coming along really nicely. Roy Z had this to say, and I quote, "I can't really say much. It's being worked on. It sounds fabulous and all that. Actually, it sounds brilliant," end quote. So that's really exciting. Obviously, we know that Bruce has been working on solo material as far back as 2015 with If Eternity Should Fail, which Iron Maiden eventually used on Book of Souls, but we know that that was a song that was originally written for Bruce's next solo project before Maiden took it. But, you know, it's going to be very interesting whether or not Bruce releases it in 2023, seeing that, again, he's going to be busy with the Future Past tour, but it could be pretty exciting. And, of course, you know, Bruce Dickinson is an absolute genius, and I look forward to anything he's releasing. So we could finally get to follow up to Tyranny of Souls in 2023, and that is really exciting. Moving on now to Judas Priest. They have not released a studio album since 2018's Firepower, but it seems like things are coming along really nicely for their next studio album, and when Rob Halford was asked about it, he had this to say, "It is close, yeah. All the writing's done, the bulk of the recording is done. I've still got to put vocal tracks down, so in essence, it's done," which is a really great feeling because that points us to the metal future. Everything that we've done in Priest over the last 50-odd years has been driven by the latest music that we're making, so this is no exception, end quote. So, seems like Halford is pretty close to finishing up what he has to do for the studio album that they're working on right now, which I heard is going to be moving in a more progressive direction here, in the same vein as what Iron Maiden has been doing as of late, and, you know, a little bit different from Firepower from 2018, but I think that's great, and if Priest want to expand a little bit upon their sound, that's awesome and should be encouraged, so that's really exciting. You know, they've had a very busy 2022 on the 50 50th anniversary tour, as well as being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, kinda, sorta, but performing at the Hall with KK Downing, who has been estranged from the band for many years, so it remains to be seen whether or not KK will, reunite with Priest sometime down the line, but I'm optimistic about that for sure as well. But very positive from the Priest camp, and the fact that they have a new album almost done is really cool as well, which I'm banking for a 2023 release, considering what Rob Halford had to say. All he's got to do is put his vocal tracks down, and things seem good to go. So 2023, I'm banking on new Priest. Speaking of Judas Priest and KK Downing in particular, it seems the new KK's Priest album could also be gearing up for a release in 2023 as well. KK has confirmed that the album is in the mixing process, saying this, and I quote, "It's imminent for sure. Everything's going to be sticky taped and glued together, and we'll fire it out very soon. It's more than well on the way. We're in the mixing process," end quote. So KK seems very optimistic about the album, and I think that's really cool. If KK is not going to reunite with Judas Priest in the immediate future, I think releasing another KK's Priest album could be a great thing. Their debut, Sermons of the Sinner, was fantastic, and, not an album that I've listened to all that much, to be honest, since the release, but, definitely one that I think I might play after I'm done recording this now, because it's a great album, really heavy stuff here, and I really enjoyed it. So I definitely am looking forward to the next KK's Priest album, and I believe it was Ripper Owens who had said that this album is going to be taking a much harder edge lyrically, compared to their debut, which the lyrics are very similar for a lot of those songs. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I believe if Priest are going to put out an album in 2023, I would not be surprised if KK Downing does the same with KK's Priest and the follow-up to Sermons of the Sinner. Thrash metal legends Anthrax have been workshopping new material since 2016's For All Kings, and when Charlie Benante was asked about the progress of the upcoming record, he had this to say, and I quote, "So as far as the new material goes, in October we all met up again and worked on material again. We have, I want to say, maybe 11 songs now, and out of those 11, I really feel like 6 or 7 of them are really, really strong. I want to have a few more. I have some other ideas for some other songs that I think would really put the record over the top. I'd like to see that happen." So, take everything that, all the speculation with a grain of salt, because Charlie Benante is the same guy who said that Anthrax would be releasing a new studio album in 2022, and that did not happen. So, would I like to see a new Anthrax album in 2023? Absolutely, but not sure if that's going to happen with Charlie currently touring with Pantera, and, if they do release an album, how are they going to tour it with Charlie being so booked up with the Pantera reunion, tribute, whatever tour? So, it's going to be interesting for sure. I would love to see a new release here from Anthrax, right? When you look at the big four, Slayer are retired, but Metallica is releasing a new studio album in 2023, and Megadeth just put out The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, so Anthrax definitely are due for another release if you want to look at it that way, and I'm really excited for it, so hopefully we get it in 2023, but I wouldn't be so sure. W.A.S.P are a band who have been seeing a lot of headlines as of late due to the 40th anniversary tour, for better or for worse, but there's also been a lot of speculation as to whether or not they're going to be releasing a new studio album in the coming year, in addition to the 40th anniversary tour, and when Blackie Lawless was asked about this, he had this to say, "We had started working on a record over a year ago, and I'm hoping to be able to finish it sometime in January, February, before we start the European tour. It won't be out until after the tour is finished, but I'm hoping to have it wrapped up by the time we start. What's in my heart right now, I want this to be a rock and roll record, an old-time rock and roll record. That's what I'm feeling. And it could be some sort of adverse reaction to what's going on in the world, maybe. I don't know. I don't really want to think about it that much. I'm just following my gut right now. I want something that feels good, and that's where my head is at right now. I learned years ago, you make records based on who you are at that moment, and that's where I am at this moment. I want to do something that feels really good." So Blackie Lawless, talking about the possibility of releasing a new studio album in 2023, wants the next W.A.S.P album to be an old-time rock and roll record with that old-time feel to it, which is really cool, but of course, when it comes to Blackie Lawless, everything the man says has to be taken with a grain of salt. He had overhyped and over-delivered, I think, or under-delivered, rather, on the 40th anniversary tour, in my opinion, when it comes to the presentation of the stage and the set list, things of that nature. I did a whole video on that, debating whether or not the tour has been awesome or disappointing up to this point, but bottom line, Blackie says things to hear himself talk. He loves to overpromise things, so, will we see a new W.A.S.P album in 2023? Not quite sure. I know that he's also working on a big box set for the 40th anniversary of W.A.S.P, which seems more likely for a 2023 release, but I would definitely love to have new W.A.S.P next year, so we'll see what happens. I'm not overly optimistic about it, but it's definitely exciting that Blackie Lawless and the band are in the creative process at least. It seems like for at least 2 years now, we've all been talking about the possibility of a Black Sabbath box set featuring the Tony Martin years and, some of those albums which are so overlooked and some of them really hard to find as well, not available on any streaming platform platforms and really tough to find on CD. So, you know, it'd be great if Black Sabbath finally released the Tony Martin Years box set, which has been speculated on for a long time. Tony Martin himself has been, you know, really talking it up for a long time, but most recently when he was asked about it, he had this to say: "Honestly, I have no idea what's happening with it. I know it's going to be out next year, but that's all I know." So, poor Tony Martin, man, being kept in the dark like everybody else here. You know, he says it's going to be released next year in 2023, so that's what we're going to base it off of here. Tony Martin, perhaps his guess is as good as ours at this point, because Black Sabbath had been teasing it for a while. I know Tony Iommi has said that, you know, it's something that he wants to do. A matter of whether or not we're going to see it in 2023, I'm not sure. You know, we were supposed to get it this year too, so who knows, but it would definitely be for the best, I think, if we do finally get this box set, because, again, some of those albums are really hard to find and are really underrated. You know, Tony Martin and his work with Black Sabbath is fantastic. Barring Forbidden, which I think is terrible, the rest of those albums are really strong and don't get half the respect they deserve. So to have a box set featuring the best of the Tony Martin years, I think would be a great move by Black Sabbath here. And, you know, Tony Martin himself released a great solo album in 2022. Hopefully we'll get some more solo work from him as well in the future, but that box set, I hope Black Sabbath are working on it because it sounds really exciting. Moving back to thrash metal here with Testament. Testament guitarist Eric Peterson has confirmed with MetalMasterKingdom.com that the band is planning to begin work on the follow-up to 2020 Titans of Creation at the end of this year and planning for a 2023 release. And when frontman Chuck Billy was asked about the possibility of a new record next year, he had this to say: "We'll work right up to Christmas, and then right after New Year's, we'll get right back at it. I know Eric and Alex have been working and jamming together, and I hear there's an epic song that's been created. I haven't heard it yet, but I hear it's epic. That's all they say. It's epic." I'm like, okay, that's the word they throw at me, but we'll see. So it sounds like there's some kind of an epic track being worked on for the next Testament album here, which will be the follow-up to Titans of Creation, which for me is a top 5 Testament album. They're a band that are just getting better with age, so the possibility of a new album coming out, you know, from them in 2023 is very, very exciting, and I very much am looking forward to that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get a new album from them in 2023, because that has possibility to be album of the year. It's crazy to think that Detroit Stories by Alice Cooper is almost 2 years old, and what's even crazier is that right around the time of the release of this record in early 2021, Alice was already workshopping his next studio album, and when asked about his productivity during the COVID-19 shutdown, Alice had this to say, and I quote: "We couldn't go touring for 18 months, so what's a musician going to do? Well, they're going to write songs. Everybody has a studio in their house. So we were writing songs and doing demos, and at the end of this whole thing, I got in touch with Bob Ezrin and said, here's 30 songs, and we decided, okay, let's do 2 studio albums, but the 2 albums are going to be totally different angles of coming into Alice Cooper. One is very hard rock, and the other one is hard rock, but it's twisted. That's all I could say about it right now, because there's a couple of really important things about both albums. So, obviously, the one that is just straightforward hard rock was Detroit Stories, and the next album he's talking about, which is going to be a lot more twisted, is going to be his upcoming record, which I'd assume at this point, if he's been working on it for 2 years, he's probably just sitting on it now, waiting for the right time to release it, and I thought Detroit Stories was a lot of fun, so even if this album is going to be somewhat similar to it, I think that's a great sign, and I'm very optimistic for a potential Alice Cooper release in 2023. Sounds really exciting and a lot of fun. So that wraps up this video here, speculating on 10 potential metal albums that might be released in 2023. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications to be notified of a new upload, and let me know down in the comments below which of these possible new albums are you most excited for. I'd be very interested in hearing your thoughts, so let me know all that good stuff down in the comments. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.